We are going to be having this segment from time to time where we'll be discussing trending topics, trending things, share our 2 cents.
After all, we are going to go and receive 70,000 now or 77,000.
Something.
So if you don't have anything doing, I think
if you have something to do, you can still collect the money.
I agree with you.
I just don't understand why people are talking about whether the man should have money before he marries. I don't think that is the point of what has happened.
People say it's the government this, it's the government that. Within ourselves, we will not start to think, have I been able to make a difference?
Yeah, people are waiting for government to do all to make all the difference.
Exactly.
But if we enter into that conversation, people will fight us. They will say,
welcome to the BLOcounsel, where we talk about everything personal development and business development.
So welcome guys again to a new segment on the BLOcounsel that we're going to call Let's Talk. I'm going to be having this segment with my dear friend, Mr. Aliyu Dangote. He's someone that, we've known each other for a very long time. And I value his contributions and opinions. And I believe that, you guys out there are going to also value his opinions and contributions. So we're going to be having these segments, from time to time where we'll be discussing trending topics, trending things, share our 2 cents and see if, you guys can pick up something from, some of our own thoughts and our own ideas about some of the things that are going on in our environment, both locally in Nigeria and across the globe. So as a fresh segment, you guys please help me welcome Aliyu. And I don't know if Aliyu has anything to say at the beginning of this segment for us.
Thank you very much, Babatunde, for having me on the show.
NYSC, but make it 2 years. So there's talk about NYSC possibly becoming a 2-year program. The Minister of Education says it will help graduates gain more skills and become job ready. But here's the question. Does doubling the time make sense in a country where people are already struggling for survival after school? What are your takes?
I will allow you to go first.
2 years NYSC. When people are not even doing 1 year. Abi? But I think the point is maybe the minister is thinking maybe they want to add some things to the NYSC program that would be more valuable to those that are attending the NYSC program. But I think the first question is the 1 year that they are doing, what is the value that is inside it?
Well, in my opinion, I think over the years, I think when they set out to do the NYSC, they had a reason why they were doing it. I think over the years, NYSC has lost its purpose, and I think the government has to think of ways to make NYSC look relevant for people that are graduating. I think it started during the time of Yakubu Gowon, after the Civil War, and NYSC then was as a form of way to unite, Nigerians after the war. People didn't have, people hated each other after the war, and they wanted to find a way to unite the people from both parties of the war and other things like that. And that was the whole idea of NYSC. That was not the whole idea, but one of the major ideas. Yes. And over the years, I feel like people have just turned NYSC to a place where they just go, and it has lost meaning across for younger people that are attending NYSC. I think they should redefine the whole NYSC. If they are to keep doing NYSC, I feel they should redefine it. For some people, I'm sure we all did NYSC. For some people didn't want to leave NYSC, and I think majority of people that were in NYSC wanted to stay because they knew that after NYSC, job was difficult to get in Nigeria. I would look at it from this angle. I feel like they can retain the 1 year, create something outside the box for people, to see reasons why they should do NYSC. And for any reason, people that have had jobs over the 1 year period, they can give them this, they can give them like an early exit, saying that since you have a job, you can leave NYSC and go and fully do
So you're
the
saying
job.
they should give them 2 years. No, that 2 years works, but if after 1 year the person gets a job, he can go.
Yes, I
Oh,
think
okay.
I think they can look at it from that angle, so it doesn't.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, so that
makes sense.
a lot of people don't feel like as if
Makes
2 years is too much for some people that already have a job. And you
Makes
know how
sense.
some companies are, the more when you're in NYC, they tend to like, okay, well, can we get someone that can fully be in the office? This whole NYC for 2 years is too long, and you might end up losing what you have. So I think they can look at it from that angle, in my opinion. But I feel like they should also look at redefining NYC. Maybe if they are going to create programs, maybe giving people that option of, since after all it's more or less like a paramilitary. I don't know if it's something like a paramilitary training, the idea behind it or something like that. They can give people the option of maybe training with the military, learning to defend themselves.
Training in the military.
Yeah, for me, after all, NYC they match with the military.
Well, true.
It could help maybe with insecurity if people knew how to defend themselves more.
That's an interesting angle that you diverted from. But at least will they continue paying them? At least they'll continue paying them for the 2 years, which might be a
Yes.
plus for some people. That okay,
Yes.
after the NYC, maybe some people would have after NYC they won't get a job.
Exactly.
So at least they still enjoy getting paid for another 1 year before.
Exactly. Before it gives you another 1 year to look for a job to do.
And maybe because I know NYSC posts people to like schools to go and teach. You know, the students in those schools too may be looking forward to spending 2 years with their coppers.
Well, if you see it that way, I think some people might find their calling in teaching. Who knows? But well,
it's an interesting
I
subject.
think a lot of people, to be honest, a lot of people don't even go. The 1 year, some people don't even want to stay in NYC for 1 year. We've met a lot of people that already have things doing already, and they don't even want to be there for even 1 year. They could make it shorter for them, maybe 6 months. Who knows?
Or do you think NYSC could be optional? Maybe they should, instead of the 1 year, so maybe it could, anyway, once they say it's optional, nobody will go.
There will be people that will go. After all, you are going to go and receive 70,000 now or 77,000. So
yeah, this sounds something. Okay.
So if you don't have anything doing, I think.
Even if you have something to do, you can still collect the money.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. If you have the time, that is. If you are working with a company that gives you that time, you could work and also go to NYSC to gain something extra. After all, places like Lagos, you know the cost of living, you know how it is. So you could do with a little bit of funds and other things like that. So, but in my opinion, I think they need to sit down and review the whole idea behind the whole NYSC, because I know Nigerians, sometimes the government tends to make some decisions without looking at how they could.
The people it affects.
Exactly.
Well, for me, I think I agree with you on, many of the points. I just, for me, if they can put value in it, that's, I think that's the only thing I can think about, because sometimes you may not, except maybe if I hear more about the minister's rationale around why 2 years, and then, because if you don't hear from all sides, then it's difficult to say, oh, is this person right or is this person wrong? But I think just looking at it from from the topic, if they can put in more value into the 2 years that people spend, and also be able to make those that are going to be doing it see what that value is, because you can create value for people, and the people you're trying to create value for don't even understand what you're trying to do. Then you start getting this friction.
Exactly.
So I think just communicating to the public that they want to increase NYSC timeline is not enough. I think there should be some level of sensitization that goes into maybe universities, maybe the final year students, making them understand why this is so, the benefits that they'll be getting from it, so that at least they can prepare people's minds.
I agree with you. I think they need to really sit down and review, because it has lost a lot of meaning for a lot of people. A lot of people just feel like, I've had conversations with you and just feel like it's just 1 year of time wasting, if they can just keep NYSC, it will be fine. But then again, I feel like it's just, they can't just find meaning why they should be going to NYSC. And if they could create activities or reasons why people should be in NYSC, you know, I think a lot of people would not mind wanting to spend that 1 year. It would be a good experience for them. You know, there are a lot of things that the government can look at. After all, there are a lot of things that Nigeria is still lacking. You know, there are so many things I feel like, and this is another topic we could go into, but I know it would take the whole day to discuss about it.
It's interesting for me. I'm even hearing for the first time. But anyway, I'm sure viewers would maybe leave in the comment section for us what they think, whether 1 year NYSC, whether 2 years NYSC, whether no NYSC. But don't say you heard it from us that no NYSC. We are just debating it anyways.
Pregnancy, emergencies, and who should have had the money. A woman lost her life during childbirth, allegedly because the hospital asked for a 500,000 naira deposit first. But the conversation has since shifted. Should a man be getting married if he can't handle emergency bills? Or should the woman have been financially prepared too? This is a very sensitive topic. What are your thoughts?
And I think I saw this thing on social media about this. I think it was the man that was crying, and I don't know if Ali has seen that video too.
No, I've not come across it.
So I came across this guy with his wife crying, but this my thoughts are going to be interesting thoughts here. But I think the first question is, are people talking about a man being able to afford taking care of his wife, or are people like, I'm not able to understand why the conversation is around if the man can afford or if the woman can afford to take care of their pregnancy. You know, I think the conversation should be more focused on why they went to the hospital and the hospital did not accept them. Because you can't, people, I've heard some people say, that didn't they have what's that thing, antenatal, that didn't they have a hospital that they were going to and all that before. But, fingers are not equal, right?
There are cases of emergencies too.
Apart from that, there's not everybody that has money to go to hospital now.
No, I feel like there are cases of emergency when things like pregnancy. It could maybe, let's say, water broke. It could be anywhere. The closest hospital to you could be the hospital that you can access just next to you. And having to go into the hospital doesn't mean that, this is a case of emergency. And I feel like, most hospitals in Nigeria need to change their way of treating an emergency.
Exactly.
Because a lot of hospitals in Nigeria tend to just, okay, this person is a new person. We don't want to take the case of emergency. And I think if I'm right, most doctors have sworn the oath of whenever they see a case of maybe emergency, they have to attend to a life. If I'm not wrong, I know that, I'm saying this because I know my wife is a doctor, and she often says that. So I believe it should be known to all doctors that if there's an emergency, your first action should be to stabilize the person that has that emergency. So I feel like it's a case of, first of all, the hospital is at fault for them having to see a case of emergency and ignore it because of the person.
They don't have money or money to pay.
It shouldn't even be, in case of money should not even come up when someone is
life and death.
Exactly. That's number one. And then the second thing again is that if this was a case abroad, I feel like there is healthcare is almost, in terms of what we are seeing in a case of emergency, healthcare should be something that whenever there is a need for an emergency, someone has to, I think they call it social, what they call it?
Social security. Social
security, yes. It's something that has to do with already a case of health. Government often
support,
yes. Yeah, so I think, as in Nigeria, we all know that our health system, it's not the standard it should be, or maybe our educational system too. But for me, I feel there should be exceptions to this kind of cases.
Absolutely.
If there's an accident, you don't control where the accident happens. So it shouldn't be a case of money with terms or a case of you shouldn't marry because of you don't have money, or There could be anything. It could be anything. You could have an accident. Does that mean you have an accident and you need maybe to drop a deposit of 1 million naira, and the next hospital, the closest hospital to you cannot afford 1 million naira, they should not take you in when you are about to die?
So
I feel that
is an interesting thing. Please go ahead.
I think hospital owners have to, I'm sure most hospital owners, they go into the business because they had a passion to save lives. So sometimes they have to look at
in those days, now it's the passion for money.
Well, whether it's passion for money or passion for whatever it is, you should understand the line you have gone into. You are a hospital. If there's any accident or any emergency, the first place for someone to be in terms of life and death is going to always be the hospital.
Absolutely.
You are not just going, if you have an accident, you are not just going to walk into a supermarket. Yes, so
to buy plaster.
Exactly. So, or a pharmacy, you know, the first place is going to be, where is the next hospital? That's the first question everybody's going to be asking. You know, so people should, I think the mentality in Nigerians have to, you know, it has to change. There are some things that we have to also sit down and look at it. And people will often say it's the government, but then again, this is a case of life and death. It didn't come to the president's hand. It came to the hospital's hand. They had a chance to save someone's life.
Sure, if the president was in the hospital, they would take them in.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's not the president's fault.
So, you know, Nigerians, we tend to always like to, we tend to blame government people for a lot of things. But this is a case of life is in your hands. You know, it's just a case of when you see people in Lagos, there's an accident on the road, just because nobody wants to write a police report, you know, everybody just ignores the person on the road and is dying. That mentality should not be there in the first place.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I agree with you, and I think also that because if we really look at, and I'm glad you took it from that angle, Sir Ali, because I think you've taken it from the right angle. I think one of the issues that we're also facing as a country of people, social media, is that something will happen and people start talking about something that is irrelevant to that particular thing. And I think this case is one of those. I just don't understand why people are talking about whether the man should have money before he marry. I don't think that is the point of what has happened. But it looks like that is the main thing people latched on. Oh, should the woman have money? Who cares about, you know, what if somebody gets pregnant for whatever reason and they just don't have money? Does that mean that they should go and remove the pregnancy?
Exactly.
So the conversation around whether they have money or they don't have money, I think it's, but I'm not surprised. You know, we see those type of things everywhere on social media. You know, a case happens and 90% of the talk is about the relevant part of the conversation. Exactly. The thing that is relevant, people will not talk about it.
That's the problem.
So, but
you know, the problem in Nigeria is that our mentality has shifted completely from the humanity side to the side of irrelevant topics sometimes. People have to look at things objectively. This is not a case of...
That's the point, objective reasoning.
People have to look at it from the point of, this is the life of death. This is not a case of money or no money.
Yeah, okay.
And anything can happen to anybody. You know, what if you had an accident and the hospital should tell you that you have to deposit 3 million? Are we saying 3 million is how many people can afford 3 million even in Lagos?
How many people have 3 million laying down?
Exactly. I've seen people that live in good houses that still don't have 3 million just sitting down in their bank account. So what are we talking about? The first instinct should be, is a case of an emergency, and let's try our best to stabilize the person. If we should stabilize them, if we feel the cost of treatment is way more than the person can pay for, then we can start thinking of how to transfer them to the hospital that we feel like they can afford.
Exactly.
So there are so many things that we could sit down and think of it in a manner where we want to save lives. But I feel like, and this is the whole issue, this goes to the whole mentality of Nigerians. People would say it's the government this, it's the government that. While within ourselves, we will not start to think, have I been able to make a difference?
Yeah, people are waiting for government to do to make all the difference.
Exactly.
Now, you know. But you know, if we enter into that conversation, people will fight us. They will say, because you have this, you have that. But you know, everybody understands that whatever the case may be, as long as you continue to hold on to the external factors to determine how your life turns out, then you continuously be subject to those external factors. But as long as you decide inside you that you want to create your own life, create your own existence, no matter what the external factors say, then you find yourself riding over those external factors. That's my own thing. So, anyways, I think we can hear the next topic.
Tariffs, trade wars, and who's paying the price? Trump is back with fresh tariffs, 125% on Chinese goods and 10% on just about everything else. Now the question is, when big countries fight over trade, who actually suffers? Is it government or regular people trying to afford everyday stuff?
Trump's tariffs. I feel like every time if you open YouTube now, it's on anything news, Trump tariff. Oh.
Well, I think Trump doesn't stay away from the media. Trump loves to be the topic of discussion every time.
Is the U.S. president? Is America is still the largest, or how do they say it? The biggest, not in terms of GDP, the largest nation in the world. But looking at this tariff conversation, and this is my own perspective around it. I think because as somebody in business, of course, and we also do some exports to the U.S. I think my own view, and maybe I'll speak from a perspective of maybe what we do, which is sell food products and those type of things. What about they increase the tariff too? Nigerians must chop Nigeria food abroad. So I think the challenge is that the people that are going to be buying the food, it will be more expensive for them to buy. But I think depending on what the person is maybe exporting into the US, they may not necessarily have any issues with whether your customers are going to, because for a business you'll be thinking of, oh, am I going to increase my sales or not, depending on what you're selling. But I know this would affect different businesses depending on the type of products and services and industries that they are in. But nonetheless, I still think that again, just like the last thing we're talking about, Ali, the external factors, if you're a business person and you're sitting down thinking about Trump's tariff and this and that, there are still external factors. Yes, they will affect your business, but in the midst of that, some people will thrive. In the midst of that, some people will not thrive. And the difference in those that thrive and those that don't thrive is still the mentality that those ones that thrive know that, okay, tariff is there, what can we do? How can we, still make our products more accessible to our customers? How can we, still make sure that we increase our sales pending all these things? So I can only think of it from a Nigerian perspective, really. So I don't know.
So from what I saw, again, I think it was yesterday, I think there's a trade war going on between America right now and China, and I think they've suspended the trade tariffs for other countries, I think for 90 days. I don't know what will happen after 90 days, but then again, they have not suspended the one for China.
Yes.
So I think China currently have placed its own tariff embargo on America of about 84%. And I think US currently, America is at 104 ISO also for China. So I believe, this tariff war should be a war going on between America and China. And I feel like in the global stage, Trump has often targeted China. I don't know, maybe I should say target if it's the right word, but I'm sure America has its own reasons for, placing this embargo on China. Maybe it could be, you can look at it from a variety of reasons. Maybe part of it is because America feels like as an industrial country, they might not be benefiting as much as they believe they should.
Yeah, Trump says it's not a fair deal, he wants a fair deal. Just to add, exactly. That's what Trump keeps saying, that all he's doing is he wants a fair deal.
Exactly. So everybody has his own opinion on these kind of, topics. For Trump, for instance, he feels like all the American companies are moving to China because of cost of production. And for China, it feels like they are being targeted by America, For America's, or maybe Trump has a certain maybe I don't want
His
to use
own
the word
reasons.
beef, but he has some reasons why he's putting that embargo on China. So I think it's something that will be here for a while. It's more or less, where I see it is more or less like a Cold War between America and China. My hope is it doesn't escalate into anything more than that. And because often the case when there are tariffs like this, the people that suffer the most are the people that are the consumers. Because when you place tariffs like this, the cost of buying an iPhone in America would go up. The cost of buying food products, like you mentioned, from Nigeria
Go up.
will go up, yes. And I hope there is a way they could stabilize that in the US, because when the cost of everything goes up, which means first, I would say it would be inflation would kind of come in, because people are going to be earning a certain amount of salary, and just because they have increased tariffs by government doesn't mean
Salaries
it reflects on
increase.
exactly. So a lot of these people might not be, whatever you could afford, you have to start rationing it. You have to start prioritizing. Okay, maybe I need to buy this amount of goods every month in the house. Can I afford to buy the same amount of goods based on what I've budgeted for the month?
Absolutely.
So these are the kind of things that will start
happening
to the US citizens. So, but let's see. Maybe I'm sure they might have had plans. Maybe America has their own plans or reasons. Maybe cost of medical care has gone up. They need to, fill in that blanks or whatever the case may be. But there's a whole lot of reasons why, they have that tariff going on. But for me, in my opinion, I think it's a bold step, and it's something that I hope Americans are
ready for.
No,
and you're right on point. Another angle that I think is important to look at it from is, I think about what Trump is doing as something similar to when maybe government closed borders.
Okay.
And they want their people to produce more. And I think of course, Trump is about America. I think I saw an argument.
Would say he's a nationalist.
Apart from that, he also wants America to produce more. So I think I saw somebody saying some rationale or a person saying that America is a service nation, and that many of the services that are, they're the biggest service nation, they make a lot of money from services, and that they should focus their attention on that they shouldn't focus their attention on production. And I think that's my view. I think I saw this thing on one of the TV stations. I think that was a flawed argument in my view, because a nation being a service nation, is that the reason why it shouldn't be producing? So, but the person was saying something like that. But just to add quickly, like I said, is in my own view, I think the whole idea of raising tariffs and making importation into America a little bit more expensive is to also encourage local production.
I agree with you.
Which, again, the question is, will local production come up? We don't know.
Well, I can understand where you're coming from. Going by what has happened in the world right now, the industries in America have the production has gone way down compared to what it used to be. I'm sure Trump, like I said, he has his reasons, and one of the reasons could be, or is, to bring back some of these industries.
Yes.
Because in every economy, most countries would tend to focus on exporting finished products more than importing consumables, because that, if you look at that balance, is not so good for your economy, So, but I'm sure that's one way he's going to look at it from. He's going to try to see if he could bring in, more. He's going to try to make
boost
America
production.
Yes, export more goods and being produced in the US. But let's see. These kind of things take time.
It takes time.
Yes, so, having to bring all those industries to produce within the US, bringing, and if you look at it from another point of view, is the more you produce, the more technology, in terms of technology, your country tends to grow, and which is like one of the major things you have to look at, because for countries that consume, they have less in terms of people that are technically gifted, because it takes away your creativity and so many other things. So it has its own advantages, but due to timeline also has its own disadvantages. At this moment, the Americans are going to feel it. At this moment,
Trump didn't. I don't think he's doing anything he didn't say before they voted for him. Anyways, I think everybody knew what Trump was going to do, and they voted for him. So I think the country is aligned with what he's doing, in my own view.
I agree with you. He's aligned, but you have to also look at it from the point of how much ready is the economy to absorb a sharp U-turn. You know, for companies, for consumers, like for instance, a lot of policies, and I'll give example of Nigeria here in a bit. A lot of the policies that was brought in by Tinubu, which is the current President Tinubu, which is the current president of Nigeria, a lot of the policies are sharp policies, which means there were a lot of pressure from the external foreign governments for Nigeria to remove a lot of its dependency on, you know, the government, which is like things like subsidy and other things like that. For them to completely remove all those things, you know, the people will feel it.
Of course.
And for people to start seeing the benefit of what he has done, it might take some years. At the end of the day, it might be good, but then again, a lot of companies would have, industries too, would close.
Could have closed. People would have suffered. Well.
Exactly. People would have gone through a lot of suffering. So sometimes, you know, having a complete U-turn on policy could, in the long run, benefit, but it also suffers a lot of people. You know, a lot of people with consumables. They do citizens are consumed. You know, the consumers are the ones that would end up suffering for that short period of time. So but yeah, for America in the long run is going to be good.
Yeah, and I think experience from past has shown that yes, those sharp turns, like you mentioned, they cause hardship. But from history has shown us that those sharp turns are actually the best turns if a country is going to turn around. We've seen it when China became, you know, started growing. We see it, I think, what's that? There's one country in South America, so maybe Brazil. You know, so you usually need to have these sharp turns in policies, you know. And I think another thing is that people, you know, when you're in the driver's seat as the leader, the view of how to take action is different from those that are, you know, the congregation or people watching. You know, the people watching always think that policies are, you know, something that is static. You can stop something and start another thing, but everything is dynamic. Everything is happening at the same time. So many things happening at the same time. So most times when people say, first do this before you make a decision, like for instance, I'll bring in the case of subsidy in Nigeria, for example. You know, a lot of people have this notion that, the government should have done X, Y, Z first before they now remove the subsidy. They should have this, they should have that. Many times, the people that think like that never achieve anything. Many times, if you want to achieve something, take the decision. Then we will now start facing all the problems that come from the decision. But let's take the decision. The problem is that people want everything to first be good before they take a decision. And no, in government, in leadership, it doesn't work like that. The more you are waiting for things to be good, the more things will be spoiling. So it's best to cut everything. Let us all know, okay, we are clear. Then we start rebuilding, which I think is what President Tinubu has done. But I think we can go.
One more thing.
Yes.
You know, I don't have anything regarding, and I don't look at it in any way. The policies, the sharp U-turn policy. My problem is consistency. So this is where the whole problem comes in, because nobody can predict what happens 4 years from now. Nobody can predict what happens 8 years from now. We could have a completely different government. After making the people going through a lot of hardship, the government might have a different view of the way they want to run the economy. And the previous policies, they might not look at it from that angle, and
True.
they might make that change. You know, I'm happy you mentioned China. What China has is consistency. The president of China has been there is consistency. So a lot of the policies, they've stuck to it, and they still have the same vision. But in terms of where we have, like for instance, America, where Trump is there for the next 4 years, does that allow, you know, when the consumers are going through a lot of hardship, would that allow them to think objectively in terms of when it comes to the polling units?
True.
They might end up voting for the same previous
The people that are there before.
administration, which will U-turn the
All of
policies back
policies,
again.
Which is most likely going to happen in their own case. because
Exactly.
if Democrats come in now
Exactly.
again, everything turn around.
So it's the same thing. And this is where my scare comes in Nigeria, you know.
So
This is the
maybe
same problem.
no
When-
continuity.
Exactly, there won't be consistency, and when there's no consistency, the
just
people,
be
the
going
citizens
back to
tend
square
suffer.
one.
Yes, because we don't have a direction of where we are going to. Someone is coming with harsh policies, and someone is coming with another policy that he will promise the citizens, we're going to have this kind of policy of relaxation, of paying things gradually till we are out of the ditch, you know. And at the end of the day, we're neither here or there.
Well, yeah, I agree. Well,
So
Aliyu,
let's hope it's for the best.
Well, let's hope, because everything happens in America, China, for what some reason affects the entire world. So
Exactly.
I guess that's why the conversation is there. But we can, hit the next conversation, the next topic.
Monthly rent in Lagos. Real solution or just sweet talk? Lagos wants to make landlords accept monthly rent. Sounds like a win for tenants, right? But can this really work in a place where even yearly rent feels like a luxury? And will landlords play ball?
I don't know what the laws are under rent. I know a bit of some laws, but I don't know how it is. I don't think it's illegal to collect monthly rent in Lagos or in Nigeria, is it?
I don't think it's illegal.
I don't know if it is, but I don't know when they are trying to enforce it, what it means. But then again, for me, if a lot of landlords would have this opinion of wanting to collect monthly rents, I believe it depends on the tenants. Because some tenants, from what I understand, is some tenants would not mind paying on a monthly, while there are tenants that can afford to pay for 3 years. Some have seen tenants paying rent for 5 years.
Of course.
So it all depends on how deep the pocket is in terms of that. But for people that might not be earning a lot of money, they would not mind paying, because it's not easy, in Nigeria to save up
To cover
money.
out a large amount
Exactly.
for that yearly
When that's the issue of when we say time value of money, time value of money, when you have, large amount of money and you can afford to spend it, and hopefully in the long run it helps you save a lot of money.
Save money eventually.
Yes, but that only happens to people that have a lot of money. For people that, let's say they earn on a monthly basis and they don't have much savings, I think it might favor them. So these are things that they can sit down and look at it from
both angles.
From both angles, yes.
Yeah, but and I'm with you, Aliyu. Is for me, the monthly annual rent, like you said, we can look at it from the what do we call the person that rents the house? The tenant's side, and we can, there's a landlord side too in the, because the tenants, yes, if it's convenient for him to pay, but for the landlord now, is it convenient for him to be collecting the money too monthly like that, after he has splashed a huge sum to build the property in the first place?
Well, Baba, today we all know that money, it all depends. First of all, I think there's a discount. Even, let's say, for instance, for someone that is renting an Airbnb abroad, who is paying for a longer period of time, based on the length of payments, there's always a discount. For you paying on a monthly basis, you tend to feel the full impact of the payment, which means you might not be able to get
The discount.
the discounts. And you know,
Or maybe they should make the two options available. Anyone that the person wants to pick.
yeah, it depends on your pocket basically.
So,
but I feel like, you know, for instance, for people that are starting, there are a lot of people that, you know, they just started. Maybe they just moved to Lagos, and you don't have the bulk of money at hand. This monthly payment would favor them in a good way. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
And like I said, it goes back to saying people that don't have deep pockets, this might favor them. But then you have to also think of the Nigerian factor. There are people that would pay rent for 2 years, and then after 2 years they might not pay anything again.
They will not pay for under 2 years.
Exactly. So are you going to...
What are you going to do?
Yeah, on a monthly basis, there are some people that will not pay your money, and having to bring out people from your house after maybe a month of living there or 2 months is going to be a big headache, because some people will not leave. They will keep promising you they will pay. So I feel like it has the advantages and disadvantages. But for me, I think it's something based on the
choice of the individual.
The landlord.
The landlord, I think there has to be a conversation with the landlords, because if the government says that they want to do monthly rent, if all the landlords come together and say no, uncle, what would the government do? The government will build or maybe they should map out an area that maybe Ikorodu, everybody that rent us in Ikorodu is monthly, they will be paying.
And you know, when you want to pass, if you want to make it a policy that will stick, the government in itself have to have alternatives.
Of course,
you can't impact on anybody to make something policy and then he owns the property. Just like when you want to ban something, you have to have a company that you have an understanding with that is going to be producing within the country. You can't ban something and not give people an option.
An option of how to get it.
Exactly. You can say you want to make a policy, but then again, the government doesn't have any house to give anybody or to give people that option. Okay, I want you to rent on a monthly basis, but then there's no house that you can rent on a monthly basis. So what do you do?
What's not the point?
What's the point of the policy, you know?
Absolutely, I agree. Well, the conversation is, what can we say? I guess let's just hope. And, well, do we just hope? Again, external factors, right? I think, people should just try to work harder and try to make more money so that whichever one, whether it's month, whether it's year, you shall be able to afford it one way or the other. I think that should be the one we are preaching.
Exactly.
No problem.
Euthanasia and mental health. When is enough truly enough? Joseph Awa Darko, a 28-year-old battling bipolar disorder, says he wants to end his life legally through euthanasia in the Netherlands. Heavy topic, but it raises a bigger question. When it comes to mental health, where do we draw the line between fighting to live and choosing to let go? What do we think about this?
Killing yourself is more or less stands more or less on like the brackets of suicide, right? Whether it's medical or whatever it is.
Yeah, but now that they've said it's legal, so it's no more suicide, I guess. It's now legal
but
suicide.
I don't think legal suicide.
It's not illegal suicide.
But I think it's a case of maybe in Netherlands. You know, Netherlands, they have loose policies, which allows a lot of people to make a lot of decisions. Compared to other countries, you know, countries like Nigeria, I don't think there's anybody that, except if you're on life support. On life support, you have a choice to. At the end of the day, the whole idea of life support is to basically, is the idea that you are under critical health conditions and machines are what are keeping you alive. And whatever they do, at the end of the day, there's a very high chance you might end up dying. So, in terms of to end suffering or then to say your goodbyes before that time, you have the decision lies under your feet to decide whether you want to end your life or they should remove you from life support and you might die, or they inject you, since either way you're going to die, to ease the pain of death. But in this case, we're talking about
think so
someone
the
that
person
is
has
not under life
mental-
support.
And so the person just has a mental health issue, if we got that correctly, right? The
Yes.
person has some mental health issue, and then the person is thinking if they need to take their own life. Well, Aliyu, I'm 100% with you. I think, again, this issue of mental health is something that I think, I hear a lot of. I think for the past maybe 5, 7, 10 years now, there's this mental health has become something that we are hearing. I think, at least when I was in secondary school, we never used to hear much about this type of thing. But as the years grow, we are hearing more of mental health issue.
So I would save you why you're hearing that. Actually, according to statistics, they said one of the major sicknesses or one of the major, like in terms of medical fields, the people that will have the most, let's say, patients are going to come from the psychic ward of the hospital, which means that there will be more mentally affected people over the coming years, compared to any other sicknesses. I don't know if I should tag them under sicknesses, but I think medically that's what they say. And I stand to be corrected if anybody in the comment section feels otherwise. But if over the years there are going to be more patients that are going to be having one form of mental sickness, because mental sickness goes a long way, other than having somebody to just be mad. I think the way of thinking too, and some other things, there might be people that might be, there are different type of mental sicknesses. There are people that you might have it, and you might not even know you have it, if you are not diagnosed of it. I saw like what they call this one, that whenever you cannot put yourself together, which is very common. Not anxiety, ADHD.
Oh, okay.
Is a form of mental sickness on its own.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't like to use the word sickness, because
mental
a lot of
illness.
people are being diagnosed with ADHD right now, and there are a lot of different types of mental sicknesses as well. So, but that's why maybe you might be hearing more
of mental health
so,
issues.
but
and so the thing for me is that I think, and where I was even driving to is, if we've just started hearing about these mental health issues over the last 10 years, let me just use that time frame. Is it that mental health issues just appeared, or why were we not hearing? Why were they not talking about it more before in the past? What are the things that are happening now that has made these mental health cases increase? And my point is, and going to the person that wants to commit suicide and all that stuff, which I must be, sometimes we just have to be blunt. I think it's a stupid reason to want to take your life, and I'm going to be blunt, and again, I'm not a doctor or a psychiatrist, but I think common sense sometimes has to play a huge part. And I think many of the cases that people talk about are things that can be resolved by, mere engaging people, personal development, having people think, in different ways, changing people's philosophies of thinking. And I'll give an example. For instance, it's as simple as, somebody is there. I've seen places where things are going rosy for the person, the person's having a good life, and then some bad times come up, and the person starts having mental health issues because those bad times have come up. But the reality is that is the way life is. Good times always come, bad times always come. But the person may just not know that, because what I'm saying right now, I didn't know it. So at some point I realized that when things go up and things come down, and things go up and things come down, this is the natural flow of life. You can't beat it. There's nobody in the world that will say that he has it all going smooth. It's impossible now. It doesn't work like so. I think, but then the medical establishment, and I'm, again, for those that are in the medical field, whether it's the pharmaceutical or, I'm not pointing any blames, but I think, because if you go to the hospitals now, somebody who have a mental illness, if you check their bag now, the amount of drugs that they will pack for the person, you'll be wondering, Even the drugs alone self can take the person's life. The drugs that they will give, and let me talk about this. I have a friend that's a doctor. He used to work at the psychiatric. I don't know if we should be saying this. Anyway, let's leave that. I won't go. But
I hope the person doesn't come after you.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is that you'll be surprised at the number of mentally ill patients that the drugs they give them is the one that is getting them worse. Anybody that is in psychiatric field can fact check me on this. They all know. Anyway, let's not talk too much. They all know. You go to the hospitals, the drugs they are giving them is the one that is even getting the patients worse. My point is that,
or they get addicted to the drugs.
There
are cases that I've seen people get addicted
part of
to
getting
drugs,
them worse. It's still the same thing. So I think the fundamental thing is that, just like many other things in medicine and all these things, the cause of the problem is usually not tackled. You know, somebody comes to you that, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling that way. The question should be why or what caused you to feel that way. But the pharmaceutical companies, the medical engineers, they will just be thinking of, okay, how can we just clear this thing? What medicine can we give this person to alleviate this problem? But the cause of the problem is still there. You know, so but for them too, you know, you have to sell medicine and make money, so you know, it's a win-win for them. You know, so I think, in my view, I think it's just the system of helping, in quotes, mental health patients. I think that system needs to kind of change. I think people should look more into the causes of problems than just trying to find a solution that, you know, because for instance, somebody saying he wants to commit medical suicide now is a solution to the problem, however we see it. But it's just a solution that we don't like or nobody. But the solution, what about the cause of the issue?
But then when somebody starts doing that, don't you think it's also replicates itself? Because when, you know, as you would know, I don't know if you know, Netherlands is the work capital of the world.
Yeah, I know.
So a lot of people start making a lot of weird decisions from Netherlands most times. And my fear is, if you feel like this is the decision that is the solution, doesn't that encourage more people that have that same problem to just decide they want to start making those kind of decisions?
That's it.
And doesn't that influence younger people? Because, you know, as much as we don't like to say it, whatever we do in the eyes of the public, it gets to the eye of the younger people.
Of course.
You know, there are people that would believe that they have psychologically, even if they don't, they believe they have one issue or the other. And, you know, they grow with that same thinking. And
I agree. Many of these issues, you'll be surprised, can be solved by meditation. Many of these issues can be solved by, you know, just being calm.
Maybe therapy. You could be talking to somebody.
Many. So, but you go to the hospital, they'll pack medicine for you. Yeah, I've seen somebody has some issue, they'll say, take this one 2 times daily, take that one 3 times daily. Before you know it, all your inside is full of chalk. But anyways.
I've seen a case of ADHD actually, that the person was giving drugs to, you know, ADHD to calm you down, basically. At the end of the day, the person started becoming too docile. Which means you have solved one problem of overactiveness, just for you to create another problem of the person acting like he's not smart.
And that's what medication
that's another
does.
psychological problem too on its own.
So which one are we solving? Anyways, I think we can, you know, it's a topic that we can always talk about more and more. But I think, you know, my view is that, you know, whoever the person is, I think you should reconsider if you've not executed your plan, I think it's worth reconsidering. Like my mother would say, life is beautiful, and we don't have another life to live apart from this life. So
I agree with you.
Why not try to enjoy as much as you can?
Or why not try finding other solutions to the problem? Because I'm sure that's not. There are a lot of solutions to every problem, you know. And ending your life is the end of the solution.
It's like going to heaven to look for a solution. That's what he wants to do.
We're not sure anybody. We're not sure who is going to go to heaven at the end of the day. You might end up going somewhere else rather than taking your chances. Why don't you try, you know?
Yeah, I think anyways.
Try your chances on earth first.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thank you so much, guys, for watching. We've come to the end of today's episode of Let's Talk with my dear friend Aliyu Dangote. Yeah, so please feel free to comment and on some of the topics that we've discussed. We are just giving our opinions. Don't take anything too seriously. So be chilled in your comment section, and yeah, hopefully we look forward to the next episode soon. With myself and Aliyu, where we'll be discussing more, trending topics, new topics, and share with us what your own ideas are too, what you feel about some of these topics, because we never know who or where we can learn from. And I don't know if Aliyu, you have any final comments for the people watching us?
I don't.
You don't? All right then. Well, I don't is a comment too. So thank you guys and stay blessed.